Our guest tonight is wrestling legend and WWE Hall of Famer Bob Backlund. How you doing, sir?
I'm having a great day. Like I said, it's almost a quintessential day. Yep.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, you recently released your autobiography, Backlund, from All-American Boy to Professional Wrestling's World Champion. The book is a great mixture of your life growing up, your career in the ring, and your personal philosophies. Why did you feel like now was the right time to release this book, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, I've been kind of working on with this project ever since I kind of stopped wrestling, and I actually didn't think anything was going to happen. I was getting to be 60 years old, and I didn't think I was going to find the right person to write the book. And somebody wrote me a letter in '09, and I was his childhood hero. His name was Rob Miller. He was from Manchester, New Hampshire, and I was his childhood hero, and he wanted to write a book about me. And when we met in Glastonbury, Connecticut, at the library and discussed it and everything, I found out that he was the man that I should be involved with, because the way he had a lot of compassion about the business, and he was he really respected the things I went through, and he actually met with me so he could find out if I was really that person that he was idolizing when he was a boy. And there wasn't much difference between the things that I was doing on WWE at that time than my real life. So we've been working on it for 5 years. We got the story of my life in a book, and I'm very proud of it, very excited. Every day I'm very enthusiastic, and I just can't wait to get out there in the world and just meet more kids and meet more parents, and try to get them to read the book, the mom and dad, and then our goal is to have mom and dad want to have their children read the book.
Mike Chiari, next question.
Yeah, well, the professional wrestling landscape changed significantly when Vince McMahon took over the WWF from his father, and then he launched into the national and global expansion. And you, at that time, were front and center in WWF when that transition took place. So looking back, what do you think are some of the positives that ultimately came from that change? And also, what do you think are some of the things that might have been better prior to that expansion?
Well, the business changed completely back then. But one of the bigger things that when they brought the pay-per-view into the picture, that made it much more lucrative for the company and for the wrestlers. They wrestle in the Spectrum. There's 19,000 people, but if they got another opportunity to get there are a million people on a pay-per-view, that really changed the income of the wrestlers and the promotion tremendously.
Brandon Galvin?
Mike and I were there at Madison Square Garden to see you inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I was curious what you felt was the most memorable moment for you from that weekend.
I was so excited to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, because I didn't go in the Hall of Fame. They'd asked me to go in the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't do it because there was something that they did negative to me back in the 80s, and I wouldn't go in. And they fixed that problem, and I went in, and I was again, I thought, that problem wasn't going to be fixed. I was getting to be up in the 60s, and thought, geez, I'll be gone before it does. And there was a lot of things that happened that were kind of little miracles at the time. But I enjoyed I was really psyched up giving the speech, and I was excited to be there, and it was a wonderful day for me.
Well, one of the interesting notes from your book was that Roddy Piper wrote the foreword. With the news of his untimely passing, what was your relationship like with Piper, and what does his involvement with your book mean to you now?
Well, Mr. Piper, I met him when he was a young person getting into business in the Olympic Theater in Los Angeles. He was just starting, and I had the championship for a while. I was over in Japan, and they wanted me to stop over there, and they wanted me to go have a match with him for 59 minutes and 30 seconds. And he says some really great things about the match. My goal was to make him look like a champion, and it was a pleasure wrestling with him. He was very advanced for having such a little time in the business, and he always credits that I helped him launch his career in the wrestling business, and I I was really proud to be able to, for him to say that about that match. And he's a great person. And he left a message on my phone about 3-4 weeks ago that it was okay for us to use him with the forward. I listened to the message, and then the next day I deleted it, and the next day he passed.
Wow.
And I was, I liked him a lot. I had a lot of respect for him, and I just never thought he'd ever leave this earth.
Mike Chiari?
Well, yeah, you're one of the longest reigning WWF World Champions of all time. And your reign famously came to an end when you lost to the Iron Sheik, shockingly. It's long been said that the original plan was maybe for you to turn heel and drop the title to Hulk Hogan. So what do you remember about the plans regarding your title loss, and why might you have been reluctant to change your persona back then?
Well, this is explained pretty well in the book, but I had a daughter that was 6 years old, and she was going to be starting school. And I went around the country talking about to amateur wrestlers. I had Bob Backlund kids tournaments for a number of years, and I made promises to them about certain things that I wouldn't do. And I wouldn't do that because of the promises I made to a lot of young people, and our daughter was going to school, and I didn't want her to have problems in school. That's
fair. Brandon Galvin?
What do you feel has been the most rewarding part of your wrestling career?
I think the biggest thing for me was to find out that Vince McMahon Sr. had more honor and dignity and pride and honesty than any man I ever met. He was like a dad to me. He told me some things way ahead of time, and he did exactly those things right on time and right on the money. He was, to me, he was a wonderful person, and I was very sad when he passed in 1984.
Well, during your career, you wrestled against some of the greatest superstars in the history of the business. Of all your legendary matches and feuds, who do you view as your favorite opponent, and which wrestler had the biggest impact on your career?
Well, Billy Superstar Graham dropped the WWE title to me, and that probably had the biggest influence because it changed my life. It changed everything in my life, and I know he actually didn't want to do that, and in the book I explain about that a lot. A lot of people were trying to talk Vince McMahon Sr. out of doing that with me because I wasn't a proven commodity in the business. I was new, but Vince McMahon gave his word, and that was probably the most memorable. But I loved wrestling. I couldn't wait to get into the arena and get into the ring. I love the people. I didn't like the dressing room. I didn't like the activity in the dressing room. I'd go in the dress and get dressed and go out and do the Harvard step test in the wheel for about an hour before my matches. I enjoyed the time in the ring because I was trying to entertain people, the people were paying their good-earned money, and I tried to work as hard as I could in the ring to make the matches as exciting and enjoyable for the people as I could.
Mike Chiari?
I think one of the most entertaining and underrated runs of your career was your stint as a heel when you won the world title from Bret Hart in 1994. Who came up with the idea for that character, and why were you willing to make such a significant change at that point in your career?
You know what? See, I didn't do that in the 80s. I refused to be bad. But in the 90s, I went back and into the business, and our world had changed a lot. People weren't interested in somebody like an all-American boy hero, and they were more interested in maybe somebody disrespecting their boss or whatever. And I asked to be bad, but I was being bad by being good. I said to Vince, I built up a voluminous vocabulary so I could agitate the plebeians, and I was preaching being responsible for your own actions. I was preaching I don't want you to throw your garbage out the window of your car anymore. You're defacing our country. And I had a policy that you had to recite the presidents of the United States to me before you could get my signature. And they hated me for that, but I thought I was being bad by being good. And that's what driven me to be so intense. And a lot of people thought I was going to fall on my face because everybody thought I could never be a bad guy. But I believed in every word that came out of my mouth. And the people just didn't. Sometimes the truth hurts.
Well, a quick follow-up on that. Do you see Do you see any way that you and John Cena are comparable in that sense? Because John Cena is the face who fights for the right, fights for the good, fights for the things that you talk about. But he is perceived as a villain by a lot of the fans. Do you see any comparison between you and Cena in that sense?
There probably is a little bit because he's talking about never giving up, and I talk about never capitulating, and it's basically the same thing. Yeah, I understand that. Sometimes people don't want to hear about discipline and hard work, and dedication, and going the extra mile.
Brandon Gavin, final question.
Well, you mentioned your daughter and superstar Billy Graham. Is there another story from your book that you could share with us to serve as an appetizer before fans have a chance to read it?
Well, in 1973, I was ready to go, and I drove down. I had an engagement to have a match in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I had a 1967 Chevrolet. It was an Impala. It was green, and it had a voluminous trunk in it. And I had $20 in my pocket when I left Princeton, Minnesota, and my parents gave me a hug, said, do your best. And I drove down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I had 29 cents in my pocket, and I wrestled, and I made a reservation at the Sheraton that night. I wrestled the match and got paid. They put it in an envelope, went out in the car and opened the envelope. There was $5 in it. I had to go 5 days before I was going to have another match. I canceled the reservation at the Sheraton, and then I went to the local grocery store and got some tuna fish with a can opener. The can opener was my most important tool in those days. I ended up sleeping in the trunk of my car. That's why I said it had a voluminous trunk, because that was a very important thing. And I was broke, homeless, and didn't know a soul in the area. And I was about 1,200 miles away from home. I couldn't get there. But I went to the YMCAs, and I worked out every day, and it made me get through the hard times of sleeping in the trunk of the car and being hungry at times and maybe being lonely at times. But when I got done working out, I felt good again. I felt positive again. It kept me alive, and it kept me motivated. And I was able to slowly climb to the top of the wrestling business because of the principles I learned when I was in high school and junior high school. From that point, everything was uphill. It couldn't get any worse, but I never gave up. And if people, if they're interested in purchasing the book, I have a website. It's backlundenergy.com, backlundenergy.com, and there's a way you'll see on the first page, you'll see a picture of the book, and there'll be some directions of how they can purchase it.
And I read the book, truly inspirational. Huge thanks to wrestling legend Bob Backlund. Go check out his book, Backlund, From All-American Boy to Professional Wrestling's World Champion, which can be purchased at backlundenergy.com. You know what? You also are going to sign some as well. So for a little bit of extra cash, you can get them signed as well, correct?
Yeah, it's $35 with a signature.
Completely worth it. Where else can the fans support you, sir?
You know what? I'm going to go out and do as many signings as I can around the country, and I'm going to try to get down in the Philadelphia area pretty soon, but I don't really have anything scheduled yet. It's funny with a book. You can't really plan anything because they change the date that it's supposed to come out so often. So I said, I got to wait till I actually get this book in my hands before I make any commitments as far as the signing goes. So I'm organizing a tour and a couple different tours, and I'm hoping Philadelphia or in that area will be in that tour. but I don't have a location yet.
I'm sure all of our fans will get out there and visit you, sir. Bob Backlund, another huge thanks. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and I thank all the people out there that have been so supportive over the years, and I really love the book 100%, and I'm going to deal with the book for the rest of my life because I think it's something good for young people to read. One of the goals was to have mom and dad read the book, and our goal was to make a book interesting enough so the mom and dad would want their children to read the book.
And it is truly inspirational, worth every cent, so go pick it up, please.